People, I want to take it to the heights of incredibility today. I am going to bring to you 8 everyday words that are worse than so called curse words or expletives. 8 everyday words that are worse than so called curse words or expletives. And when you see some of these words, you're going to question what I am telling you, but if you look deep enough, you will see exactly what I'm saying. There are horrible words and phrases in the English language that are worse than any that we call indecent. Why are these words called curse or indecent words? And why are they tabooed? In fact, the Christians will tell you that it is a sin to utter these words, while in the same breath, they tell you that it is all good to do blood sacrifice rituals. First, I will give 8 words that are worse than so called curse words and then give an explanation as to why they were tabooed in the first place. Please hit the like button and show some love here. Subscribe and press the bell notification icon to get alerts anytime I post videos. Now if you see that the the, the subscribe button is red, it means you didn't subscribe. So go ahead and do so. Now let's go. Number 1, aboriginal. Aboriginal is a word that they use in church, right? And they use it in schools. The word aboriginal is a disgusting curse word to trigger group hate or prejudice against one particular people. It curses one with hate and the other with violence and systemic oppression. It is a very nasty subliminal spell that attaches the demon concept to the subconscious mind in a way that the subject will believe that this adverse thought was his own idea. By using our doctoring prefixes, you can put dual meanings to words that will consciously be interpreted as one single definition, but in the subconscious realm of mind, these words will turn opposite or adverse to that conscious idea. Your deep reactions or that internal sense of truth will be affected by the subconscious version of the stigmatized word. On the surface, you will be told that aboriginal means the people as seen all over the world as first inhabitants. However, to refer to them, the word changes from simple original to aboriginal, and you are told that it is the same thing anyway, right? The only problem is to say aboriginal is to turn it into a prejudicial curse of induced or enforced mediocrity. I will repeat that. The problem is to say aboriginal is to turn the word original into a prejudicial curse of induced or enforced mediocrity. The prefix abhor will get past the conscious mind as a non-issue, but it will not be missed by the subconscious. This way, the curse crosses under the radar to attach this demon spell to your mind. Abhor means to be disgusted or hateful of the subject. It will simultaneously send dual messages to different races. It tells the white person to hate or be disgusted at the originals, the black person. It tells the black person that he is the disgusted or disgusting original. Even if they are two children of these separate races sitting in the same class while a teacher utters the word, they will be affected in different ways. So when you ask the white child why he hates black people, he will say he doesn't know and he just hate them. 2. Blackmail. Blackmail is another horrible curse word. It is simply to endorse and incite or induce agreement by subliminal means to the natural condition or position of the black masculine gender. Also, take note that that the that the deed of scapegoating itself is attached to the subject. The deed of scapegoating itself is attached to the subject. For when you blackmail, in a sense, you scapegoat, right? He is cursed, or you can say black sheep, right? You scapegoat or your black sheep. You can use any one of those words. So he is now being cursed by systemic design to be targeted for injustice. He is the person who you pick on if you want to be unjust and get away with it. You know, like some person say that, okay, he kicked the car wheel because he was hungry, he kicked the wall because he was angry, he fired a shot in the air to reduce stress, and he just scapegoated a black person. He just, as a police officer, pull over a black person and beat him up. um, Whatever, just think about what it can be to be like a black sheep. 3. Homophobic. Homophobic is one of the most disingenuous curse words ever concocted. The definition of what is homophobic describes the nature of an heterosexual. I know you didn't notice that. The definition of what is homophobic describes the nature of an heterosexual. In other words, homophobic simply means that one who has heterosexual tendencies. Homophobic simply means that one has heterosexual tendencies, but by stigmatizing the word, the conscious mind is tricked into thinking that there was something wrong about the heterosexual being what he is. It is an evil curse of mediocrity where the homosexual, in claiming for certain rights, is also cheekily trying to disable the rights of the heterosexual, who himself begins to question his own nature by a word that actually has no true meaning. It is a trick word and a horrible curse to boot. As he accepts the word that he believes gave him a logical truth, he agrees that homophobia should be gotten rid of. But he fails to see that homophobia means straight, and what he is. What is he? Some people believe that by them getting their rights, it should mean that you have none. Remember that. Atheist. This word, much as the word homophobic, has no true meaning. It is just basically a trick perception word meant to deliberately confuse a person into thinking that his honesty is at some blasphemous fault. The definition of the atheist should actually mean someone who chooses to be honest. The effect of using a trick perception word is this: someone places it in a position as substitute for meaning. It is stigmatized in a way that you bypass looking at it for definition. You do not define it. So you go straight to the conversation and the foundation of a word you agreed upon. Because you become confused into believing that atheist is a thing, you give authority for this. Upon its illusionary foundation, someone will use his ignorance to question your intelligence and his presumption to question your truth. There can be no such thing as an atheist. There can be no such thing as an atheist. It is an impossible thing to be. It is an impossible thing to be. You cannot tell your brother that he doesn't believe in your mother because he does not agree to your arrogation that mothers push up children through their buttholes to a holy man in a skirt in heaven who opens their eyes and drops them back from the sky. It simply means you are dishonest because you see marvelous creation and you cook up a story. He came under the same conditions, seeing the same thing you say or see, but he ain't making up shit. So what's the difference? You know that I am, and you suck milk from your mother. He knows that I am, and he sucks milk from his mother. So how the fuck are you gaslighting him? Atheist is not a word. It is impossible, you disingenuous bastard. Pray. Number 5, the word pray. Pray is a spell word that binds the subject into a perpetual ritual inducing a spell of mediocrity. Pray, the word pray, Pray, is a God spell word that binds the subject into a perpetual ritual. You keep doing the ritual over and over again, inducing a spell of mediocrity, a passive mediocre mindset to surrender to a predator masquerading as a god, a shepherd of men who fishes for humans, using this to keep the sheep in surrender, a predator, a predator. You the prey to a predator. Prey is spelled Prey, but the true spelling is Pray to you in this case, which is not. It is the same pray. The spelling is changed for subliminal effect that it seems to be different, but the conditions and meanings are the same. You surrender to the predator, a sheep, a lamb to the slaughter. Am I saying anything different from what you are being told? No. You are simply just not listening. When you pray or be the prey, when you pray, you be the prey. When you pray or be the prey, act the prey, act the prey, or become prey to the master, you surrender, you prostrate, and you beg. Feeding the ego, you beg. Feeding the ego, you surrender, you beg. You pray to the master, you beg, you sacrifice. Sacrifice the emotion, sacrifice the energy, you surrender, subjugate, surrender. Pray, Prey, pray. The feast is not only for the blood, it is not only for the flesh, it is for the energy. The energy in enjoying to see them suffer, to see them grovel, to see them beg. The energy also to let them work and pay for your abundance, to let them work, to let them work, to let them have nothing to do but labor in this life. You prostrate and you beg. This ritual also keeps you in a self sacrificing mode to a master who cultivates you as a sheep. No, I am not no shepherd of men. So, in order to try and do this to you, I am trying to tell you to look. He cannot do this spell unless he tells you. He cannot do this spell unless he tells you what he is doing to you because universal justice demands that you must first agree to be prey to him. He cannot do this spell unless he tells you what he is doing to you, because universal justice demands that you must agree to be prey to him. So the only thing I tell you now is open your eyes and look. All I can tell you is this. Open your eyes and see if he did not tell you everything that I tell you now. Or tell me, write in the comment, do whatever. Tell me that he never told you, and I will understand to just leave you alone. You do not have to become prey to a vampire god. You can sit down, close your eyes, and meditate to the purity of God internal, man divine. The minute you get that, you will be saved. For he promised you heaven after you die, after you are sacrificed. But I now give to you heaven at hand. He also told you the truth that heaven is at hand, but you think heaven is coming. Offering. That's number 6. The word offering. In any religious sense, the word offering is also a ritual of sacrifice. You work and pay your dues to the enemy that receives your soul and labor. One of the main focus of offering is soul and blood sacrifice ritual. 7. Testaments. Testaments, as used in the Bible, a word meaning testicles is a demeaning word that demeans not only all women but the entire black race as well. It is a construct of the old and new shepherd kings that insisted that women, including white women of course, and black people were useless, and to kill them you did not have to worry because it was no sin at all. The Testaments, as defining the Bible, is a DNA memory spell of trauma. The Testaments, as defining the Bible, is a DNA memory spell curse of trauma or re-traumatize. The Bible laws are called canons, and the word canon is pivotal at this point. For when the black woman would resist being raped by these white men, these men with their testaments who impregnated them, when the black woman would resist being raped by these white men, they put them to sit on hot canal balls to blister and die. So the white men, after being seriously or desperately resisted, they angrily, begrudgingly put these black women to sit on hot searing cannonballs to blister, suffer, and die. Then they would mock them, saying it is either our balls or the cannonballs. So that is about the canon, the Bible laws, the canon which is in the shape of a penis, and the testament, that means the testicle. These men would travel and sail by the thousands, and they would go to rape, sometimes even more than to pillage. They tried to kill the entire civilization of the Taino Indians because the men refused to let them rape their women. The testaments bring always the trauma to a black woman. It is also a perpetual statement to remind the black race that as they physically raped and impregnated their black women, they would now impregnate their mass minds with the God's spell with the testaments, the Old and the New Testament, the old order where they began to the new order that they have raised. Are you hearing me? The black woman is the one who always bows first and whom they use as tool to take down the black man, because if they take down the black man, they take down the race. Today, by the help of the black woman, they make his and they separate the men from their sons and daughters to masculate the daughters and effeminate the men. But they tell the black woman that it was to empower them. Eve felt that she could agree with the devil and fight the design of God. Eve felt that she could agree with the devil and fight the design of God. The story of Adam and Eve is not a story of years begun. It is a perpetual cycle that karma will not leave from the race until it is absolved. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? It is a perpetual cycle, the story of Adam and Eve, that the karma will not leave from the race until it is absolved. Greed, greed, greed and avarice, greed and avarice, greed and avarice, greed and avarice, self-hate. Eve is as zealous today as she were in the beginning, and that is the problem. So it is the perpetual story of Adam and Eve, where Eve believes the subtle his. The women bow out of fear. When a black man, or put it this way then, when a black woman hears the words, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, or thy rod and thy staff may comfort you. There is a subliminal fearful effect that makes her bow because of the trauma of ancestral DNA memory. Notice that among the black race, it is the women that fill the churches. Back in slavery, it was the black woman that complied with the order to be Christianized, and she brought the black children to the church. Many clergymen know these things, and they revel in the idea of the testaments, the rape, the orgy, and the impregnations of the subject. They defile boys, girls, wives, and husbands by the fear of these testaments and God spells. And the last one is eight, right? Eight, number eight. Forgive. To forgive. Here is one thing that you should know at the highest vibratory degree. You do not look for culprits, not in you and not in the other person. You look for solutions. You look for transcendent lessons and you move on. I did not want to include this word because it cuts too very deep to explain. However, I decided to put it forward for those with eyes to see. We are all here to advance, and as a part of this evolution, we must face and conquer ego. If we exchange ego for gratitude, it will help a lot. Ego is always so self-centered in a prejudicial way. It always wants to be superior than the other, and so it will ever point to the culprit. You cannot advance to the highest chamber by pointing to the culprit. Your own absolution is within your own faculty and not without you. Whatever happened, whatever was destined to happen, is the lesson learned. Whatever happened, whatever was destined to happen, is the lesson learned. It was the lesson that made you advance to a certain higher truth. I don't know how clear this is. To be in that state that you will find necessity in this thing that you call forgiveness is to induce codependency instead of organic growth. Can you see this? One person's forward movement now depends on the other person. Stop thinking in terms of fault and think in terms of growth. There is, there was, and there never will be a thing to forgive. There is, there was, and there never will be a thing to forgive. It's just all in your mind. It's just all in your mind. There are pains, weaknesses, and adverse thoughts and sentiments in you to absolve. To absolve. None of these things lie outside of you. Okay, look at the word fuck. A word used exposing the dominant masculine or submissive feminine, emphasizing that received are given. It emphasizes the tone of speech. We are fucked denote the adverse being received, a feminine subdued mode. To say I will fuck you up is a masculine voice, emphasizing and graphically transferring the thought. Your ass, bumbleclad, or blood clot are words used just like as menstruous clot used by the ancient Africans that simply means a no good person or thing, word to be cast away from the eyes of the masses. No one should be able to see or be affected by the abomination that it represents. So if I am told that Ali shot a man today and I said bomboclat, it simply means God forbids that this thing is seen or experienced by us. I reject it, but it is spoken in an alpha dominant tone. Someone who wants you to be subdued does not want you to speak in an alpha dominant tone. When you speak in a submissive voice, he is more comfortable in his superiority. So they do not want you to say, Bumbleclad, I forbid. They want you to say, okay. You know, it's just a tone, it's just a way of speaking either in a passive or an objective mode. So why are these words taboo? Because they are masculine words being used by intended subjects or slaves. In other words, they are being used by people who should be submissive. When you hear a woman say, Bumbleclad or fuck you, it automatically masculinates her. She becomes masculine in tone, right? She is elevated to masculinity, an alpha masculine at that. There are masculine and feminine tones and voices of speech. I want to repeat it. There are giving and receiving objective and passive tones, and the voice the person uses will generally reflect the truth about his character. In all things feminine, there must be the masculine, and in all things masculine, there must be the feminine. However, if there is the subject that you must talk down to in order to make him keep knowing his place, you cannot make him express to you as if he were the alpha male. Any such expression would threaten your authority. For example, white slave makers would love to use a word like your ass in a masculine tone as a defensive or objective way of drawing the line with emphasis. When the enslaved used the same language which came across as your ass, it was too much of an alpha masculine statement. Therefore, they had to have these subjects subdued. In this case, it was easy as the word sounded different. They outlawed the expression in the Jamaican dialect. Now it became legal in English but illegal in Patois. This is still on the books and still being charged against the black people of Jamaica by a government that threatens them about this law being on the books. With your ass came other words that says the similar thing. Thousands of years ago, The ancestors of the same people in Jamaica had a phrase that they used for a common situation. It was to say a menstruous clot. Their women were discreet that any blood from her menstruation was kept from the sight of others. Any clot that was silent was brought away and cast off to where no human would ever come in contact with it. It was a menstruous clot. It also followed that if you were an abominable person, the word menstruous clot could be used to define you. A menstruous cloth to be kept from the eyes of all and cast off in the wilderness to never again be seen and heard, so that this abomination will not affect others anymore. By DNA memory, the word menstruous cloth came back simply because they began to speak about your ass. Then it became the ras clot, the blood clot, the pussy clot, and the bumbo clot. All these words have meanings, but all these meanings are uncompromising, spoken in alpha masculine tones. Even by using these words, a woman takes on a masculine appeal. People listen. The one who did not clear or who did not hear, the one who did not hear or care to please put down my belonging will now respond to put down my rascal thing. If someone will not listen to please go away and leave me alone, he will likely hear you say fuck off and go away. He will likely hear when you say fuck off. These are alpha masculine tones. There are always these psychological genes hooked into the system to keep the subjects in check, and don't believe they were removed from physical slavery, or they were moved after physical slavery. Now they need them more than ever. As the shackle is no longer on your hands and feet, they have to contain the mind. This is why they are trying to hold back on things like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and things like that. Unless it's something that's going to destroy the fabric of the subject's society. I mean, their societal order. Uh, I'm trying to, if it's going to affect the societal order in ways that only hurts the subject, it's okay because it makes the subjects weaker. If it's going to affect the societal fabric in ways that affects their ideal desire of society, then they will try to contain it. If it's, for example, what dancehall has become, what hip hop has become, is what they want, they will allow. And they will make statements and pretend like they are against it at times, but it is what they will allow. And the radio stations will tell you that this is what people demanding, but that's reaction formation. They themselves put it out and introduce it to the people and then say it is what the people want. The people will still listen to what was original, but it's because it is not becoming a norm to them to hear. The white slave maker would walk out one morning and see an enslaved human pass by without saying good morning, and he would be pissed. He was pissed because the subject, feeling free to choose whether to show him respect, was thinking to be free. The bow, the bow and surrender principle was preached, so he would have to approach that slave, put him in his place, or punish him hard until he changed his mind if necessary. I remember in college, a well-known manager from a nearby hotel in Montego Bay came to give us a lecture. He was having a chit-chat session with us. One of the things I remembered was when he said that a Christian could hardly handle the heat in certain departments. He said that you can tell a person to put that thing down a million times and it might not work. If you as the manager will emphasize the word, persons usually hear. This goes with policing also. In Jamaica, the hypocrisy is turned up a notch. As usual though, they give the police this mandate to charge people for saying rasclad, bumbleclad, and all the words spoken in patois. Of course, if you say your ass like the Englishmen, even to the cop, it's all cool. However, these cops are on the streets dealing with stiff-necked people who will not hear anything less than move your bumbleclad boy. If a cop comes speaking nice and soft, some people will think they are pushovers. So now they are forced in the position to have to play the hypocrite, and then the system doesn't work because it turns a bad example. It doesn't work because the system endorses by the deed what they condemn by words. It doesn't work. The system endorses the deed that it condemns by words, are endorsed by deed what they condemn by words. They say one thing and do the other. The government is the biggest extortionist, and they do it to the degree that even the dons can see. This is why extortionists and scammers will forever feel entitled. They do nothing that the system does not do in their faces. The government defraud the people every day, taking monies by false pretenses and not using it to the projects agreed upon. They do it and they think the youths are not able to see or they are not intelligent enough to figure on it. They have a false belief that just because they went to get degrees, they are half as intelligent as the average guy chilling in the streets and blowing smoke. They do not have a justice system for the people, and they make that absolutely clear. They want to catch scammers and all criminals, they say, but they are free walking the last time I checked. Peace out.